Hi everyone, this is Ronkarashkeda with Neowin, and today we are taking a look at the Razer Kishi Universal Controller for Android. So, brief introduction here, there have been a lot of controllers for phones for a long time, and Razer themselves have made a few. Most recently they came up with a Razer Jungle Cat, which was a split controller, and it came with a case, and with 3 cases actually, so it would fit 3 different phones. And what it did is that the case would then allow the controllers, which were split in half, sort of like this, and they would slide in onto the case so they could be attached to the sides. But they work via Bluetooth anyways. It's something very similar to what happens with this controller here, the Red Magic Pro handle. So it comes with a case for the Red Magic 5G, and then the rails here allow it to slide into the sides of the Red Magic 5G, and it communicates via Bluetooth. And this is a fine solution. I mean, they work all right, but the Kishi is trying to address the main concern with Bluetooth controllers, which is the latency that you get when you're playing with Bluetooth, because of course, Bluetooth isn't the most performant sort of connection. It's not super fast, and there's always a little bit of latency there. So this one, you can see there inside there's a USB Type-C port. So that's how it connects to the phone. It just connects directly via USB Type-C. It reduces latency, and that should be a good thing usually. Another unique thing about it is that it should fit a lot of phones. So because when you look at the Jungle Cat, that came with 3 different cases, or the Pro handle here came with 1 case because it's designed specifically for the Red Magic 5G. This one, as long as your phone fits the maximum dimensions that they recommend, you should be able to use this with any Android phone out there. So the maximum dimensions, by the way, if you're interested, it's 163.7 millimeters in height, 78.1 millimeters width, and 8.8 millimeters thickness or depth. So, looking around the controller, the layout is very similar to what you get something like the Xbox wireless controllers. You have 2 analog sticks with a pretty wide range of movement. These feel very, very good for a mobile controller. These are very nice. They're smooth, they move a lot, they're clickable, so they're very capable here. The face buttons also feel fine. The bumpers and the triggers also feel quite good. I'm not a huge fan of analog triggers. I know it's weird because there's a reason why they're used and they're preferred. But I actually prefer just the simple click that Nintendo usually does with their controllers. But that's just me, I'm sure. The D-pad I'm not a huge fan of. It feels a little mushy. It's not terrible. It's not the worst I've seen. But I do prefer the more clicky feel that the Xbox wireless controller has. The function buttons work as you'd expect, and they feel pretty fine. And there's also a home button, of course. Looking here, you can see there's 2 slots here. These are for bottom firing speakers because you're gonna put the phone in here and you want the sound to come out clearly. So they have channels inside there that then that go through to these holes, and then you still get that sound from the bottom firing speakers. That light there indicates that the phone is charging, and the phone charges if you connect anything to a USB Type-C port down here. So this does pass-through charging through that port. You don't have to charge the controller itself, it's powered by that connector there, but this lets you charge the phone while we're playing. So that's pretty much it in terms of the design. The way it works is that you pull on these latches here, and then it releases this plate that locks things in place, and then it extends, and you can put the phone inside. Having done that, assuming you have a phone that fits the measurements like this one, I'm gonna use the TCL 10 Pro, and you just slide it in. It stretches out, and okay, there you go. So it's now working. You can use it to kind of navigate the screen there, but because it assumes that you're using the controller in this layout, but the phone is upright, and it's kind of not doing what you would expect it to do. So you'll still want to use the touchscreen to open games, but it does work. So the angle here with the Razer Kishi is mostly got to do with cloud gaming, because that already has the latency between your phone and the server. So you want to have something that's responsive and not Bluetooth, because of course that adds its own latency. And that's also always a problem. So that's the angle here. However, my internet has not been cooperating, so I can't really show it with cloud games. There are some mobile games that support it though, so I'm gonna try to open Asphalt 9 here, for example, so you can get a quick look at how that works. I'm just gonna mute that because it sounds annoying. But yes, it is designed for cloud gaming. Razer does claim support for Stadia, xCloud, and GeForce Now. Only GeForce Now works in Portugal. I tested it a little bit, and it does work. I have to say it works pretty well. But again, my internet has not been working the way I wanted to, so connecting to the servers has been the problem for me, and I can't really show that off. And also it works with remote play technology that's more local. So if you're using Steam Link or Rainway, which is another similar service, you can use that to connect to your own computer and play games on that using your phone. So if you have your computer in the bedroom and you want to play in the living room, you can do that. But it does work with all of that. And then mobile games that support gamepads like Asphalt 9, or if you have potentially emulators for other consoles, you can probably try to use those. That seems like another great use case for this. If you're using emulators on Android, having a controller like this is probably a pretty good idea. I'm sorry, excuse me, I kind of suck at this, but you see everything is working, the controls are fine. It kind of stops responding to the L and R buttons here, but that's the game. That just, for some reason, after a while, it stops me from drifting. I don't know why it does that, but that's the game, because this doesn't happen anywhere else. But yeah, it works fine. It's very responsive. I have to admit, I'm not the kind of person that really notices input delays a lot. I've always been fine with Bluetooth controllers. I don't try to look more deeply into it while I review this, so I can give you a better idea. But personally, I'm not usually very sensitive to that kind of thing. We can try another game that also supports it, that Trigger 2. This one doesn't just natively support like assigned controls. You kind of have to configure everything yourself. But it does work once you've set it up. And so I'm gonna try to, oh my gosh. Let me see if I can get, probably best to use the touch screen here in the menu, because it's not very well, it's not designed with controllers in mind. I think it supports them, but it's not the best example of a game that you can play with a controller. But once you get into the gameplay itself, you can see I can aim here pretty well with this. I can't move because this specific mission doesn't allow for that. It's not meant for that. But I can also move in other missions. It does work. It's just that this specific mission is meant to be played like this. So you can tell I can move around. Now there's some enemies, I can shoot them. And again, everything works very well. It's very responsive. I can't complain. I can say that it's way better than Bluetooth because, again, I never really noticed any problems, and I also am not that used to playing on a phone, so I haven't tried this game yet with the Bluetooth controller, but I can say that it works very, very well right now. So this is definitely an interesting offering. It's very comfortable, I think. A little big, but when you consider something like the Nintendo Switch, it's way heavier. And over time, that definitely becomes a little more uncomfortable. This one feels way lighter. Of course, it's always also going to depend on the weight of your phone. But still, it should never be as heavy as a Switch. So this is actually very comfortable. And for cloud gaming specifically, or other more controller-based games that aren't designed for touch or mobile devices in general, this will probably be a very good option. Of course, I will be testing a little more, try to get into those cloud services that I can't really use right now because my internet is messing up. But in general, I am a big fan of the way this works. It's very responsive, it's very comfortable, so I'm just gonna stop that right there. But it is a very nice controller. So with that being said, that's gonna be all for this video. I really do like this controller. I will be testing it out a little more. And there's also an iPhone version, by the way. This one has a USB Type-C connector for Android phones, but if you have an iPhone, there is also a version with a Lightning connector that you can use. It's a little more expensive, but this is available right now for $79.99 US dollars or 89.99 euro. It's very good, so far at least. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.